Today on our 2010 Chevrolet Silverado 2500, we're going to take a look at and also show you how to install the B&W Turnover Ball Underbed Gooseneck Installation Kit. Part number is BWGNRK1067. Now here you can see our hitch installed, of course, when it's not ready for use. This is a great benefit of the underbed style gooseneck ball mounts, is that we don't have that ball that sticks up in the middle of our bed, taking up space and can a lot of times be hard to work around. These are designed to sit flush with the bottom of the bed. The safety chains might be a little bit higher, but it's so insignificant it's not really going to make a difference there. And when ready for use, our ball stores right in the gooseneck, so we don't have to store it or look for it. We're going to pull the pin on the outside. That's going to take the 5/8 diameter pin out. Rotate that right over into its stored position, then release our handle. Once our handle's released, you see our ball is going to be nice and secure. Now this is a 2 5/16 inch ball. It's been machined from one solid piece of steel to give us superior strength. And the square design of it is going to help to reduce any rotation effect that we might have. You'll see it can go in either direction there. Either side is going to accommodate the 5/8 diameter pin. And whether in the upright position like we have it now, or in the stored position, it offers a corners only fit once it gets down to that second layer of the head. So any dirt or debris that might build up in here is eventually just going to run out with rain. Now when we're ready to flip our ball over, we're going to pull that handle out, rotate it, lock it in the open position. We'll rotate our ball, and to re-secure it, just rotate it back in the clockwise position, and that 5/8 diameter pin is going to go right through the hole. As you can see, our custom underbed installation kit does a great job of fitting right in place where it needs to. Great thing about it is we don't have to modify the frame of the vehicle at all. We use existing holes or U-bolts to make our way around there, get everything nice and secure. They're constructed of heavy-duty steel, so they should offer excellent service for years to come. Now the hitch itself is going to offer a 7,500 pound vertical load limit, so that's the maximum downward force the hitch is rated for, with your tongue coming down on it. And then it offers a 30,000 pound gross trailer weight rating, so that would be the total weight of your trailer and anything you had loaded into it. You of course are going to need to check your truck specifications for towing and go off of whichever of those sets of numbers will be the lowest. As you'll see, our safety chain connection points also come up nice and high. It's going to give us a great opportunity to connect whatever size safety chains we might have. When not in use, the spring-loaded tension is going to keep them firmly down on our bed and reduce any rattle that we might get from them. In the beginner installation, we're going to be underneath the rear of the truck here. We've removed the spare tire just to make it a little easier to see. And we're going to trim our heat shield out. You have the option to fully remove it or trim it. I think it's easier just to trim it. So we're going to cut straight across in front of these two bolts that hold it in place. That'll give it an anchor point. And we're going to do the same thing on that front hat channel, just behind those bolts. We want to clear out the area from pretty much this edge to that forward edge of the hat channel. And to do it, we're going to use a high-speed cutoff wheel. You can use whatever cutting tool you prefer. Now while we're down here, we're also going to take this exhaust hanger off, and we're going to block it to try to push down on this exhaust a little bit. That just buys us a little more space here during our install so we can get that head into position. A long screwdriver or a pry bar usually does the job. Use a little spray lubricant to help it slide off there. But we're just going to use a block to kind of space that out. Now we'll get the truck bed marked where we're going to be drilling our hole. In your instructions, they're going to have measurements. Whether you've got a short bed, long bed, you want to follow those. We're going to come from the rear edge of the truck bed forward. We want to make our mark at the prescribed distance. Now if you have like a drop-in bed liner, you're better off removing that to get your hole created. If you have a spray-in bed liner, you need to accommodate for the extra. So if it's a 16th or if it's an 1/8, you need to adjust for that to keep our hole in the right spot here. We're also going to center this up side to side. We want to make sure that we have it right in the center of our truck bed. We can do that from wheel well to wheel well. Once you have your spot marked, you want to reconfirm your measurements. You only want to drill 1 4-inch hole in the bed of your truck. Then we're going to use a center punch. Mark the dead center of that mark. Now we're going to use a 4-inch hole saw and get that drilled out. And now we're going to clean up the edge of that hole a little bit just to kind of smooth everything out. Now we can get all of our metal shavings cleaned up, and we're going to treat this with a little bit of clear coat or spray paint just to touch up that bare metal. Now we need to buy ourselves a little bit of room here on this edge to get our cross members to slide in. It really the one for the front, the triangle shape. So we've got our tire here. Right above that, you're going to have one of your hat channels that go across. We need to take a small notch out of this edge. We're going to do that 2.5 inches toward the front of the truck from that hat channel that runs across. That'll be the center. We want that to be 1/2 inch high. And we want it to be about 1.5 inches wide. So from there to there. I'm going to be taking out that little triangle, just like that. Now we can slide our cross member in place. We want it to go from our frame rail here all the way over to the passenger side frame rail. And we're going to move this forward. The holes, you want those on the back side of the angle as you slide it in. We'll also slide our rear right in there as well. Now once we have our cross member in place, the hole that's closest to the driver's side, we need to put one of our bolts in. Just going to kind of slide that in from the back. Just like that. And there's a little O-ring in your kit. Bring that O-ring down over that to hold it in place. It's almost impossible to get your hand in there to do this later, so got to have that done. Now this is our rear cross member. We need to get this rotated up in position, and when we do that, we want the holes to be lower. You can see they're a little bit lower on that arm. We want those to be down. If it doesn't rotate freely, you can just put a adjustable wrench on it, kind of help it in position. Now on the heat shield here on the end of the gas tank, it looks as though when we put our center section into place, this is going to give us some interference. Worst case scenario, best case scenario, just be in our way when we work. So we're going to take it off from that rounded edge or that contour up. We'll remove that just with some snips here. Just like that. Just be careful because that edge can be a little sharp. Just use caution with it. Now we're going to get our center section lifted up into place. This is our release handle. We want that to be towards the driver's side of the truck. And you'll see how our hole is slightly offset. That needs to be towards the rear of the truck, just to give you reference. We've got 3 holes on the front edge. This one, the one on the driver's side, is going to line up with that bolt we've already installed. The other 2 line up with the holes in our crossbar. We'll bring this in up over our exhaust. And then work it in above our tank there. Just like that. Now I'm going to move that front rail to line up that bolt. We'll put a bolt in our center hole location. Put on a lock washer and also thread on one of our hex nuts. Now for the rear connection where it goes to the rear cross member, we're going to use one of our bolts with a flat washer and lock washer on it. We'll line up the center section with the hole in the bed. We'll place a bolt through our holes there and thread it into that rear cross member. Now we just want to go up top. We're going to take a quick look and see how the center section here is lining up with our hole. We can adjust it a little bit as necessary. Now here on the driver's side, if this oval shaped hole is blocked, that's part of a factory brake controller. We need to remove that by taking these two screws out. We've got one here and one here. We'll use a 10mm socket. We want to save these screws because we're going to be reusing them. We have a relocation bracket for this, so push in. That'll clear it out of the way here so we can get our side bracket in. When we get underneath there, we'll show you how to reattach it. Now we're going to move on to attaching the side plates. See how these are meant to bend out away from the frame? That's going to make it a little easier for us to get to that hardware. We've attached it with 3 of the short carriage bolts. And we're going to put on a flat washer, lock washer, and a nut. We want to leave that so it still has some adjustment. We don't want to tighten it down. This is going to help us to align our holes and get everything in position. But for now, we're going to stick these 2 flanges up between the 2 cross rails. Now with that in position, we'll bring one of our bolts through the front cross member, through our plate. We'll add on a flat washer, then a lock washer and a nut. Here's the brake controller relay. We've moved it up out of the way for now. Here's our relocation bracket. You can see those 2 bolts are going to slide down on there. We need to take this, the larger bolt, place on one of our oval bushings, just like that, and it's going to go through the oval shaped hole in the frame. Now up against the frame on the outside, we're going to have our large flat washer. Put my bushing up in the frame. Just bolt through it. Now on the outside of our bracket, we can place on our lock washer, and also our hex nut. We want enough pressure on that so that it'll keep those spacers from coming out. So that side plate should be pretty much right up against the frame. Now we'll slide the 2 bolts on our relay down into the 2 slots on that bracket, and we can get it tightened down. Now we're going to install our U-bolt. It needs to come through this hole right here. As you can see, we've got some interference here with this line that runs from up by our brake controller. So we're going to take it out of this hole and we can attach it right into the hole in the side plate. Let's use a screwdriver or maybe a trim panel removal tool. I'm going to pop that down and out. As we put this in position, we need to avoid getting it around this wire loom, so we're going to go underneath that and over our frame like that. We don't want to have these brake lines pinched or this wire loom pinched. And once we've got that through our holes, we're going to add on a lock washer and a nut on each end of the U-bolt. And we'll bring that wiring down, slide it right in position like we talked about. Now we're going to go do the exact same thing on the passenger side, although we don't have to worry about the relocation bracket. Now we're going to snug down and torque our hardware. We're going to start by securing our center section to our cross rails. Now we're going to move on to torquing our 3/4 inch bolts down. Do that on each side. Now we'll move on to getting our U-bolts torqued down. We want to do this evenly top to bottom and follow the specifications listed. Now we'll do the same thing for our driver's side. Now we'll get the 3 carriage bolts tightened down appropriately. And finally, we're going to come in here. We're going to get our side plates tightened to our cross members. Now we can slide our release handle in over the frame rail there, and we'll bring it through the half round hole in the end of the center section. Once that's through, we're going to bring it back so it lines up with the hole in that tab. We place in our carriage bolt. On the back side, we've got a locking flange nut. Now we can use a 13 millimeter, and we just want to tighten that down so it's snug. We don't need to over tighten it. Now we can pull out on our handle, rotate that clockwise. That's going to lock it in the open position for us. You can see, rotate it the other way, allow that to come in. That goes into the lock. Now when we install our safety chain U-bolts, we're going to have two holes here. Some are going to be a little closer to the middle, some further out. You want to choose the hole that lines up with the bottom of the corrugation so our safety chains sit down flush. In our case, it's going to be the two here, a little bit closer to the middle. That's going to be on both sides. So I'm going to take a 1/2 inch drill bit. I want to use that to mark the center of the holes. Now I'm going to use those marks in a smaller drill bit. I'm going to drill pilot holes up through, then we'll go through the top and drill down. It'll be easier to do that way. Now we just want to check the fit of our U-bolts. We want to make sure that they drop through freely, move freely. Looks like the hole's in the right position there. A little more clear coat will take care of that. We'll head down and put on our hardware. Now onto each one of our bolts, we're going to place one of our springs. We're going to thread on one of our lock nuts, and then we're going to tighten that down so about a 1/4 inch of threads come out underneath the nut. Good there. We'll do that for the 3 remaining locations. Pull our block of wood out there, get our exhaust hung back up, and our hitch will be ready for use. And that'll complete our installation of the B&W Turnover Ball Underbed Installation Kit, part number BW GNRK1067 on our 2010 Chevrolet Silverado 2500 HD.
Click the link below to shop, learn more, or visit us at etrailer.com.